Walker agreed to a 4-year deal worth more than $110 million. Mina, what do you think about them rewarding Walker?
Yeah, Travon Walker's been a good player. I think he suffers a little bit from being that first overall pick before Aiden Hutchinson, who obviously has become a superstar. But if you take that out of the equation and just look at Walker's career, he's been tremendous against the run, only had 4 sacks, I believe, last season, but before that had double digits the prior 2 seasons. And he's been an excellent Robin to Josh Hines-Allen's Batman. So I think the Jags getting this done for a young player makes sense. Contract will age well. And now I think they should focus on adding some pass rush juice on the interior between those pass rushers because they really haven't gotten enough in that particular area of their defensive line over the last couple of years.
$77 million guaranteed. Congratulations to Travon Walker for that deal. All right, in case you missed it, we've got some things to catch.
News out of the NFL where the Jaguars have signed edge rusher Travon Walker to a 4-year, $110 million extension. The former #1 overall pick in the NFL draft has racked up 27.5 sacks in his first 4 seasons in Jacksonville. His new deal includes $77 million guaranteed and runs through the 2030 season. Let's welcome in Pete Prisco to react to this news on Travon Walker. Let's start with the team side of things. What does this move mean for the Jaguars?
Well, it helps free up some cap room right away. The way the contract's going to be structured, they needed to do that. They didn't have a lot of cap room right now in terms of flexibility, so it helps from that standpoint. But again, this is a player they drafted first overall, 1 spot ahead of Aiden Hutchinson, which is a whole other story. We could go back and revision his history because he's been a good player. He just hasn't been that guy when it comes to rushing the passer. He only had 3.5 sacks last year. He also was hurt, missed some time with a wrist injury. But the bottom line is he's a really good football player. He's just not a dynamic pass rusher. And I think they're paying him on what they think they can get out of him in the future, not just on the edge, but maybe moving inside more and rushing from inside, which I think, by the way, would be a real strong thing for him in his football game.
Yeah, so just to kind of expand on that a little bit, Pete, I mean, what does the contract tell you about their plan for him? Obviously, you draft him first overall back in 2022. You have high hopes for him, but there was the injury-riddled season last year and then the breakout season in 2024. So what's the future look like for Walker?
Well, again, when we go back to some of the draft part of it, this regime did draft him. That was Trent Baalke, and they made the decision to draft him based on the traits. And he's a big, strong, physical player, and he's really good and tough against the run. He holds up the point. In fact, I'm not sure there's a better run player in terms of defensive end in the league. But that's not why you pay that guy. You pay that guy to get to the quarterback. And what's the one thing that they're lamenting right now in Jacksonville? That they don't rush the passer well enough. And I think that means that he has to be better, rushing the passer. But I also think it means that he's going to move inside, like I said, and play more inside rushing the passer, which I think is a strength for him. But if he does do that, what's that mean? That means they need to get somebody who can rush on 3rd down from the edge. They need a dynamic edge player to go with him and Josh Hines-Allen. And I think to look to the draft, because I think that's what they're going to do. They're going to draft an edge player in the draft.
So you anticipate them not quite being done as they make their defensive front and hopefully get more pressure on the quarterback?
Yeah, and by the way, this was a contract negotiation. I had heard rumblings this was coming down, but one of the things that you look at, and the average per year, he didn't get past what Josh Hines-Allen is making per year, and I think that was something that the team wanted to stick to in their negotiations because Josh Hines-Allen is a better edge rusher right now than is Travon Walker.
While we're on the subject of first-round picks, last year's first-round pick, didn't play as much as they would have liked him to. Travis Hunter, of course, suffering that injury. But Liam Cohen at the owners' meetings last week saying that we played half a season without our first-round draft pick and at 2 positions. What can that look like when he actually is in a rhythm and routine, understands it, fully immersed in it, and everybody and how we have to be as a team? I'm excited about what that looks like. I know that Liam Cohen is not the only one that's excited about what that looks like. So from your standpoint, Pete, what does that look like? What can we anticipate from a healthy, fingers crossed, Travis Hunter?
Well, you're going to look at the #1 corner. I mean, that's what you're going to look at. And we can talk all you want about wide receiver corner, and he did a lot of stuff early last year at wide receiver, in large part because he had to learn the offense. And that was the toughest part of it for him. They wanted him to learn the offense, and then he would get comfortable on the offensive side of the ball, and then he'd play more defense. Well, just when that was ready to happen, he suffered the injury in practice. So their ideal plan for him would be to be the #1 corner, which I think they anticipate he will be, and be a guy who spots in on maybe third down, some passing downs on the offensive side of the ball. He's not going to play every snap. He's going to play every snap on defense, but he's going to be spotted in on the offensive side of the ball. When you look at him, look, they mentioned that. They played the whole year without their #1 corner. They had a bunch of other injuries. They're also their third-round pick, Ransaw, a safety, is probably going to start as well, and he missed the entire season. So they feel good about adding back some of the young guys that they didn't get for a full season last year as a big part of what they're going to do on defense.
I love the graphic we chose here, too. Liam Cohen excited about Travis Hunter. Big if healthy, aren't we all? Pete Prisco, appreciate you breaking down the latest with the Jacksonville Jaguars and the new contract for Travon Walker. Some notable upcoming NFL dates. It never stops. The draft, of course, 3 weeks away from Pittsburgh. You got the Raiders with the first overall pick, and then in May, things get pretty busy with the option deadline, spring league meetings in Orlando, Florida, and then the official deadline for
decision to make as they continue to wait out Aaron Rodgers, or I should say wait on Aaron Rodgers, right, and what he's going to do next season. If they don't get an answer soon, could draft night be the answer? We now welcome in our Steelers reporter, Brooke Pryor. And Brooke, the draft less than 3 weeks away. It's going to be here before we know it. How realistic is it that the Steelers will have a decision from Aaron Rodgers by that Thursday night in Pittsburgh?
Well, Laura, you said you guys are doing the 20-day countdown to the draft. That could also be the countdown to Aaron Rodgers' decision, because I asked Steelers owner Art Rooney II at annual meetings if he expected to have an answer by the draft, and he said yes, that's what he anticipates. It could be wishful thinking because we know Aaron Rodgers works on his timeline and his timeline only. But all indications are that he is going to decide sooner rather than later. When we talked with Mike McCarthy at annual meetings, he was saying, look, I FaceTime with Aaron Rodgers often. He said he talked with him the night before. He said it's every week, every couple days. So they remain in constant contact. By the way, the offseason program schedule dropped today. The Steelers report to OTAs for the first phase on April 7th next week. They have mandatory minicamp June 2nd through 4th. Last year, Aaron Rodgers signed right before mandatory minicamp that was a little bit later in June. I believe it was June 11th, June 10th or so. So if it doesn't happen by the draft, if Art Rooney's wish does not become reality, then perhaps by June 2nd.
That's another good tentpole, though, in this potential timeline. If they don't get an answer, what can you tell us about Pittsburgh's contingency plan at quarterback? Obviously, they're putting all their eggs in this Aaron Rodgers basket, but what if it doesn't happen?
Right. Well, I think one of their contingency plans in Kirk Cousins, obviously now off the board because he is in Vegas. They do have Will Howard on their roster, and Mike McCarthy has been so incredibly high on what he likes out of the 6th-round pick. He even said this week that, look, if it was up to him, if he was drafting last year, Will Howard would not have been on the board there. He also gave us some insight into quarterback traits that he likes, because I think it's a very real possibility that they could draft a quarterback, maybe not in the first round. They have other needs to address, but a later round guy. Things Mike McCarthy likes: 10-inch hands, cold weather quarterbacks, playoff winners, long arms, all of these things that a couple guys in this draft have. Maybe a Carson Beck, he has 10-inch hands. Drew Aller, also big hands, long arms. Garrett Nussmeier, another option, doesn't have quite the hand size, but it's close enough. So they have some contingency plans that they're working through.
Carson Beck in a quarterback room with Aaron Rodgers and Will Howard would be really interesting.
Yeah,
he's a guy that's got a big chip on his shoulder. But to your point, they do need to build some depth at that position. We know that however much longer Aaron Rodgers plays, if he does return, it's not going to be that long. All right, thanks to Brooke. Now we know